You just highlighted it. Also, I'm like joking for the most part. I don't know why you would get mad.
All right, let's watch male privilege. I'm ready.
Atlanta's pretty gay too, straight up.
Male inequality. I can't wait.
Okay.
Many people were afraid that merely drawing attention to the problems of boys and men was implying somehow less effort being paid to girls and women, that it's framed as a zero sum, and it's sort of a whose side are you on question, and you have to be on one side or the other rather than just being on the side of human flourishing. One of the real challenges here is that if there are men missing from certain crucial areas of our society and our economy, that makes it harder for other men and boys to flourish in those areas. We have an education system that has a dearth of male teachers. We have a labour market where the jobs that are growing fastest are ones where we have the fewest men. And in families, there's the growth in what you might call the dad deficit or fatherlessness.
Wait, what? Bro, is this motherfucker making it seem like, wait, what? Wait, hold up. Is he saying that like what? Like their men are being like systematically eliminated from participating in certain spaces, in certain sectors? Like what the fuck? There's no shot, right?
As men are struggling in each of those areas, what you'll see is it'll be harder for other men to follow in their footsteps. It's harder for boys to flourish if their fathers aren't engaged. It's harder for men to enter occupations where there aren't men. It's harder for boys to do well at school where there are no male teachers to be seen. And so there's a very real danger that unless we act quite soon...
Bro, men can navigate whatever fucking space they want to. Let's be real. That's just like, that's insane. That is an insane take, okay? If there are certain sectors where men are not prominent, that is by their own interest. Okay, straight up.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
That's wild. That is a wild fucking take to make it seem like men are not becoming teachers because like men are not becoming teachers because like they're what is the reason? It literally is by choice.
That we will set in train, something of a vicious cycle. I'm Richard Reeves. I'm a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, and my latest book is
fucking Brookings Institution.
Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why That Matters, and What to Do About it.
The modern male.
The overall picture is that on almost every measure, at almost every age, and in almost every advanced economy in the world, the girls are leaving the boys way behind, and the women.
Okay, if men are not going towards a specific sector, it is quite literally because of incentives, financial incentives. Oftentimes, the sectors that are heavily female dominated, like caretakers, nurses, and teachers, are literally some of the most undermined industries that provide insane value. Okay? If you want more men to become teachers, pay teachers more, and more men will field that sector. That's crazy to just like make it seem as though men are just like not trying to become teachers. Like what the fuck? Or social work is another one. Exactly. He pointed out teachers and not school administration was close to 50-50. Yeah, I like that, he's the expert on male inequality. All right, let's see. Let's hear him cook.
What nobody expected was that girls and women wouldn't just catch up to boys and men in education, but would blow right past them and keep going. Everyone was very focused, quite rightly, on getting to gender equality, getting to gender parity.
No, I don't think. I think this is like a well-intentioned liberal who like is a bit of a meninist. He's at the Brookings Institute.
Was it like what nobody expected when we educated women is that they would pass us? I mean, that was not the intention.
No. I'm not going to be immediately uncharitable to him. Because it's Brookings Institute. It's like classic fucking.
That's what he just said. Nobody.
I think it just means like I think it means like objectively people did not think that like. Because women have been very successful in the education sector in general, like as far as like college education, this is an ever increasing disparity that you see for sure.
Oh, okay. Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of context to it.
Ago, where there was a huge gender gap the other way, and there was huge focus, correctly, in the 70s and 80s to really promote women and girls in education. But the line just kept going, and nobody predicted that. Nobody was saying, what if gender inequality reemerges in just as big a way as now, in some cases bigger, but the other way around?
You kind of are being immediately uncharitable. Well, he's a Brookings Institute guy, so like automatically, he's a lib.
We overcorrected.
Teachers are more likely to be women, but our principals are more likely to be men. Yeah, more administrative roles in teaching goes to men versus the actual educational labor roles. Oftentimes are women are dominating that field. As far as the education disparity goes, it's true. This is what he is mentioning is correct. Okay, This is like a 2016 video for real. He's not wrong when he says that women have better outcomes in education, not in the teaching space. I'm saying like in higher education than men do. That part is true. Okay? Let's see what he is. Let's see what component he's going to add on to that, though.
And to some extent, everyone's still trying to get their head around this new world where, at least in education, when you talk about gender inequality, you're pretty much always talking about the ways in which girls and women are ahead of boys and men. And that's happened in a very, very short period of human history. So if you look at the US, for example, in the average school district in the US, girls are almost a grade level ahead of boys in English and have caught up in math. If we look at those with the highest GPA scores, the top 10%, 2/3 of those are girls. If we look at those at the bottom, 2/3 of those are boys. When it comes to going to college, there's a 10 percentage gap in college enrollment, a similar sized gap in completing college, conditional on enrolling. And the result of those trends is that the gender gap...
Wait, what the fuck? Wait, hold up. But this exists everywhere. And it's much larger in Iceland. What the fuck? It's like super large in Norway. Wait, what? Okay, all these charts are really weird. Be sure to analyze. So OECD, according to educational attainment and labor force status, it says Norway has like around a 43% completion rate, whereas for women it's like 61%. What? ELS population who attain tertiary education. It's also because women have a higher education than men with lesser degrees to get the same level of respect as them. I mean, here's the thing. I think one of the reasons for this is that, like, I mean, we're talking about grad school, right? That's tertiary education, is like master's programs. What is ELS? What is ELS data? An educational longitudinal study on 4-year colleges and universities.
Question.
Oh, wait. So this is just undergrad. It's not.
So in this case, men and women are getting equal education and women are just outperforming the men. Is that what this is?
It says that if you look at 24 to 34-year-olds with a bachelor's degree, as in like completed their bachelor's program, because 24 is usually like the youngest that you complete, right? Tertiary is post-secondary. I thought tertiary implied masters. I guess I'm wrong. Yeah, you finished bachelor's around 22.
Yep. That's when I got my degree. I know that's a shock.
Tertiary is every study past high school. Okay, it could be vocational college. Okay, so college undergraduate education. Okay, college undergraduate education. Women are a higher percentage of women are getting a college undergrad education than men in every single one of these OECD nations. A higher percentage of women are getting a college undergraduate education in every single one of these countries, and the disparity is like really large in some of these countries, like Canada, with 56% of men getting an undergraduate education versus almost 75% of women getting an undergraduate education. I think that the United States is in a unique position, but the UK also is like interesting because like in a lot of these countries, you not only you sometimes even get paid to go to college. Germany is interesting because both are very low. I think that overall, I mean, they're super low in comparison to other countries. I don't know if it's because they have a different schooling structure or if it's because they already have high-paying jobs that do not require a Bachelor of Arts. Yeah, they have different tiers too in German education system, so I don't know. But I do know that like in the German education system, like vocational schools are readily available. I don't know if this is being calculated in the tertiary education, like trade schools that immediately give you great job opportunities. Yeah, and apprenticeships, exactly. So, and there's manufacturing as well. So I don't know if that is the reason why it's so low. I guess that is not considered, I guess that's considered secondary. So it would not be considered college. Chefs, athletes, oil dudes, plumbers, electricians, mechanics, carpenters, none require graduate completion. Sanitation workers, all male dominated, all pay decently. Women need to go into more debt and spend more time to work in services fields like HR and marketing and shit. The countries with the largest disparities either have massive agriculture or oil industries. Yeah, I think that the reason why Germany's number is low is because a lot of people go and get training and then, and then work their way through like regular manufacturing jobs and shit like that. I would suspect that serve no purpose, you should die now. Bro, are you good?
Oh, W guy.
I'm not going to ban him. I want to let him cook. Bro, Germany here, and this shows how fucking rotten our institutions of Social Security are. Aside from unemployment being $450 a month since 2012, you starve. There are very little people that want to go into uni because while it's free, you're obviously not getting paid. You can request BAföG if your parents don't earn too much. Most have to get the money. Yes, you nailed it. Almost everyone does job training. Yeah, that's the reason why it's low. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. All right, let's
Gender
continue.
gap in getting a college degree is now wider than it was in 1972, but the other way around. So in 1972, when Title IX was passed to promote more gender equality in education, there was a 13 percentage point gap in favor of men getting college degrees. Now there's a 15 percentage point gap in favor of women getting college degrees. So the gender inequality we see in college today is wider than it was 50 years ago. It's just the other way around. There's quite a fierce debate about the differences between male and female brains. And in adulthood, I think there's not much evidence that the brains are that different in ways that we should worry about or that are particularly consequential. But where there's no...
I think this is a major issue in countries like the United States of America, more so than like a universal factor. I haven't heard about this in like Finland or whatever, but I do hear about this all the time in America. And the reason for why in America is because our manufacturing jobs and our like industrial jobs in general are fucking dog shit in comparison to other countries with adequate social safety nets, higher rates of union participation in the labor force, and better contracts in general. So for that reason, and how much our capital owners want to squeeze out profit from our labor force, you see a lot of issues with and a lack of adequate pay in the manufacturing jobs, if they're even available. They're not as readily available here in the United States as it is in other countries, because we've outsourced everything. So I think that that is part of the reason why women tend to go into higher education, partially because they also need a higher education to become competitive in a lot of the white collar jobs. Sorry for the burp. They need higher education on average to participate in white collar in the white collar jobs than men do. So they just like up their, I guess they just, feel the need to continue education, possibly. I don't know. But there's also another side of this argument, as far as like, and I don't know how big of how much bullshit this is, but people often talk about like how we educate people, like how we educate in our educational system is just not good from the jump, especially for men. But I don't know how valid that is.
The real debate is in the timing of brain development. It is quite clear that girls' brains develop more quickly than boys' brains do, and that the biggest difference seems to occur in adolescence. So what happens is in adolescence, we develop what neuroscientists call the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex of our brain is sometimes known as the CEO of the brain. It's the bit of your brain that says you should do your chemistry homework rather than going out to party. It's the bit of your brain that says it is worth maintaining a high GPA because it will help you get to college, which might help you in the future. And that bit of the brain develops considerably earlier in girls than in boys, between 1 and 2 years earlier, partly because girls go into puberty a bit earlier than boys, and that seems to trigger some of this development. What that means is that if you have an education system that rewards the ability to turn in homework, stay on task, worry about your GPA, prepare for college and so on, then just structurally, that's going to put at an advantage the group whose brains have developed earlier in those particular areas. And that turns out on average to be girls. I think it's a great irony of women's progress that by taking the brakes off women's educational opportunities and aspirations, we've revealed the fact that the education system is slightly structured against boys.
So we should hold
and
boys
men
back a couple years
because of these differences in the timing of brain development. But it took the
They should
the
start
women's
school
movement to
2
show
years
that,
later.
because the natural advantage.
Saying men are too dumb, dude. Boys are too fucking stupid.
Well, I'm just saying, if they're 2 years delayed, let's get the ladies give a head start.
He
right?
says send the boys on the short bus and give them special classes.
I'm saying no. Men should graduate from high school.
Mixed education is still better.
That's problematic. Then you get a lot of problematic age gaps.
What? No, man.
In high
What the
school.
fuck?
See, 20-year-olds in high school, that's kind of strange. And then you're mixing like the older men with like, it's just not good.
Okay, so does this mean equality in education is ableism?
You'd have to have all boys schools. This is a tough problem to solve. I think, yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
Advantages of women in education were impossible to see when women's aspirations were being capped by a sexist society. Now that those caps have been largely removed, we can see that it's boys and men who are...
Dude, this is kind of funny, though. It's literally like the only reason why we set women back is because we literally had to forcibly set them back. And now that we've unshackled women to a certain degree, they're just fucking crushing men, and it's ruining everything. That's what this entire video is stating.
That's
it's
what
like,
I said in the beginning.
What the fuck, dude?
We made a very big
we gotta keep
mistake.
we gotta keep women back, dude. We gotta hold them back. What the fuck's going on? Everybody chill. Stop it. This is actually a great point.
They're too powerful.
This is actually a great point. Were you aware that being born later in the year and therefore being older when you go to school is actually a massive advantage in professional sports? Yes, dude. Yes. You fucking Malcolm Gladwell reader. Okay. Yeah. Michael from Pennsylvania just outing himself as a fucking Malcolm Gladwell fan. Okay. Yes, I do know that.
I had no advantage in sports. I didn't hit puberty till I was like 16, and I peaked at 5'9". I had asked. There was a time when I wanted to be a starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. That's what I said in my 5th grade yearbook.
Don't you dare make such a slanderous claim. How did you know, Hasan? Because I read it. I read the book Outliers.
at a disadvantage in the education system.
Yeah, I did it.
At the risk of sounding boring, let's collect the data first so we know what we're dealing with here. I do think that we should be strongly encouraging boys to start school a year later than girls. I think that should become the default in many school districts because of the developmental gap that there is between boys and girls. Because boys' brains mature more slowly, then them starting school a year later would mean that they were developmentally closer to being peers with the girls in the classroom.
Even then, women would still outperform.
Okay, let me think of the second one.
We need a lot more male
Okay,
teachers.
that's what the fuck does that have to do?
It's striking that the teaching profession has become steadily more female over time. Only 24% of K-12
Yeah, brother, I'm telling you, you got to pay more then.
He's implying that like men don't are they can't, they're getting like shut out of the field or something.
He's saying reverse patriarchy is now happening, like a matriarchy is now happening without like any sort of systemic move to create such a thing. Because here's the reality. We talk about this all the time. If you have more, even though I don't believe this, okay, ultimately, I don't think like a reverse patriarchy, like a matriarchy is occurring in these fields. But like, yeah, if you have more white administrators and all of the fucking football team owners are white, then they elevate white people to become coaches. And, you know, you have white athletic directors that are looking at white football players to become coaches. And that's how you have a massive pay gap between white and black coaches and a lack of black coaches, even though 75% of the football players are black. The only reason why all the coaches are white is because all the administrative staff is white. All the fucking basically this argument acknowledges patriarchy and how the patriarchy has formed itself, but then claims that a matriarchy is now occurring. But even then, in administrative positions, you still have men. So how does that work? You're still talking about administrative positions in schooling and in higher education especially, where men are still more dominant, where men are still making up a larger percentage of like the movers and shakers in any particular industry in managerial positions. So this matriarchy doesn't work. Because if that was the case, then principals would also be heavily, like the principal and managerial staff in the school system would also be heavily dominated by women. And then they would be making the active decision to bring more women into the workforce. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I get it.
I doubt that's going to be the case 10 years from now. Not saying a matriarchy is imminent, but I doubt admin and ownership is going to be male dominated in 1 to 2 decades. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that's going to continue. Also, if this was the case, then there would be no sector or interest for STEM, where there is a massive disparity. There is a massive male-female disparity in STEM that favors men, right? Same in the tech sector. The tech sector makes diversity initiatives all the fucking time, but ultimately the tech sector is still heavily male-dominated. You know what I mean? All the females I know in STEM are managers now, so they just put them back in HR-style roles anyway. Yeah, he points out the K through 12 gap, but that gap slowly closes the higher you go into education.
Teachers now are male. That's down from 33% in the 80s. And fewer men are applying to teacher training year on year. And so we've seen this steady shift towards a close to an all-female environment. That has all kinds of consequences for the ethos of the school, for the way we deal with different kinds of behavior among boys and girls, for example. And so we need a very serious and intentional effort to get more men into teaching. The third thing.
So that's how we've lived for literally thousands of years? Shut the fuck up about men not being administrative roles. No one cares, not Hasan. All dumbasses here. Wait, what? I don't understand.
I would do in this world where I have significant power to dictate policies would be significantly more investment in vocational education and training. That is an area where we do seem to see better.
Okay, but that literally is, like you pointed out to that graph where Germany has this. What does he mean by this? That would not solve it for education. That would just, create the same. that would make it so that it would be the same as Germany. The disparity would still exist, and most people would still they would go into vocational training. But do we even have businesses for that? I feel like we don't even have manufacturing for that. We don't have the output for that.
I mean,
nor the willingness to pay.
The problem with the education system these days is there is a fundamental lack of preparation for the top of the hour ad break that is occurring right at this moment. And
oh my God, bro, you
need
you debated me. You fucking piece of shit. How dare you?
What you can do is you can subscribe so you can avoid the ads that appear for a 3-minute duration at the top of every hour.
Yo, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. You fucked me up, dude. I was so invested in trying to understand what he's saying, and I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm yeah, just fucking let him cook. I get you shattered my frame. Is that how you guys feel?
Dude, I'm so proud of myself. I peaked, I think. I have to leave now.
Yeah, this guy's trying to fucking get me with this. You aren't female, Hasan. You can't talk about female issues. Shut up, idiot. No one cares about your fucking dumb opinion. I just got fucking eviscerated by Austin. You can also get gifted a sub to avoid the top of the hour ad break. I'm running it now.
I can't believe I debated you on your own. Oh, man.
That's fucked up.
That was great. I should go, though. I have to shop.
Okay, go.
And we're hanging out all weekend anyway.
Are we? Are you coming tomorrow?
Yeah.
You have to make a promise to come tomorrow for Scary Games.
What time are you doing Scary Games?
Later in the afternoon.
Can you do a mid-afternoon Scary Game?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just want the lights to be on.
No, it has nothing to do. I got a lot of gay shit to do this weekend.
Okay, dude.
Okay, thanks for having me. I'll stop in tomorrow.
Got a dick appointment.
I did plenty. I got several dick appointments.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Not just one. You kidding me? That wouldn't make the trip worth it. I gotta.
What's the score? Did the top of the hour bot give a score? 990. This might be one of the highest.
Wait, is that broken your record?
It's not. I don't think it breaks the record. I think it was 997 one time, but
how? Who got 997? You got 997 on it?
I got a 94 yesterday. 93. But I think this might be it's up there. It's definitely one of the best.
Wait, I got a 9.9?
You got a 990.
990. Is that 9.9?
Yes, it's 9.9.
That's you can't even get any better than that. That's I maxed
Yeah,
it out.
no one, because people always fuck it up. People always want to give 943 here.
Yes.
That was insane.
Have other guests tried to do the ad?
No, but I have gotten cooked by people debating me when I'm reading an article. I think the highest score we ever got was an article that I read in Kotaku, which had an ad segue in it because HasanAbi had wrote it.
Oh, okay.
Which was crazy.
All right. Peace out, guys.
All right, Austin. Yeah. What's going on tonight? Oh, really? I guess maybe. God damn, that was heavy. That fucked me up, dude. Oh, I got a 998 one time. Now you literally will never beat Austin's score on your own game. Okay. $998 is crazy. If it's a 998, you should be ashamed of yourself. That means some chatters literally were nah, fuck it. I don't want a 1010 to happen here. You know what I mean? A couple of chatters literally said, nah, fuck that. God damn. All right, let's keep watching this.
better results for boys and men on average, and one that's woefully
I know my
underinvested
monitor's showing.
in
I don't
the
care.
US. The US has really bet most of its dollars on a very academic, a very narrow route towards success, and less emphasis on vocational training. And that has actually put boys and men at a disadvantage. So apprenticeships, technical high schools are actually a really good way to help more boys and men. I think one of the challenges with this debate is that if you're talking to women and men who are, say, at the top of the economic ladder, 4-year college degrees, decent incomes, they look around and they don't see some of these issues. But that's not the same for working class men. That's not the same for men lower down the economic ladder. So there's a danger that we're so busy, to borrow Sheryl Sandberg's phrase, so busy leaning in that we don't look down. The reality for men further down the ladder is very different. The economic trends for men have turned downwards along 4 dimensions. One is wages. Most men today earn less than most men did in 1979. In employment, with a drop in labor force participation of 8 percentage points, which means 9 million men now of prime age are not working. We've seen a drop in occupational stature, and so there are now more men working.
Huh. I wonder why, dude. Really, I wonder why. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, literally, well, let's, dude. Like, looking at this analysis from the perspective of gender is the most insane liberal. It's like the last version of liberalism. Notice that neoliberalism is never mentioned as a cause. Weird. Yeah, I wonder why the Brookings Institute would never mention that, like, inadequate labor conditions and manufacturing jobs being shipped overseas for our profit-seeking, at the behest of our profit-seeking capital owners, is playing a fundamental role here. And again, like, looking at this from the perspective of like men versus women, looking at this from the perspective of men versus women is so fucking silly, because yes, of course you can't look at women in the workplace fucking, 50 years ago, because there were very little women in the workplace fucking 50 years ago, right? It was mostly men. But the reason why people see this as like a zero-sum game is because now they're like, well, women are in the workplace and now men have a harder time getting jobs. It must be because women have entered the workplace. It's like, no, dumbass. Women aren't exactly doing great in the workplace either. Nobody is. The job market is dog shit for everybody across the board. It's just that you can't compare women to, you can't compare the women participation rate 50 years ago because there's no adequate data from that time. This has everything to do with women. Wrong. It's obviously women's fault. He's not saying it's a zero-sum game. I know, but the argument lends itself to the zero-sum game argument. If you're only talking about the data without mentioning why there are women in the workplace now, without mentioning why you can't make that similar comparison to women, then you are you're almost implying that there's a zero-sum. Also, didn't even mention the women's data. Exactly, because if you mention the women's data, women are doing incredible because, yeah, no shit. It's like saying, yeah, in comparison to, okay, you know what that would be like? That would be like comparing black people's like financial status in this country as a whole, okay? 1.5 generations ago in comparison to now, right? And by the way, holy fuck, white supremacy is so powerful that like even now it's not all that better, but like it's objectively better. Because why? Well, segregation and slavery. That's why. By the way, that's another way that people actually do that. White supremacists do. Racist people do use that as an example, for the record. That is another underlying resentment that is baked into people's minds through white supremacy, which is like, well, black people are not participating in the workforce, so white men can't fucking get the jobs. It's like, no, because there was nothing before. The system can be oppressive to all groups, more oppressive to men in some ways, more oppressive to women in others, more numerous ways, pointing out that one doesn't discredit the other. No, the educational concept is one that I think has validity as far as like men not performing that well in education. But when you get to the trades, when you get to the job market, when you talk about that shit, when you talk about like Faustini, please stop. Brother, I don't give a fuck that we have the lowest unemployment rate in 54 years, dude. What are you talking about? Who gives a shit how fucking low the unemployment rate is when motherfuckers that have a job are not able to have the same purchasing power with respect to the rest of the economy and not have the same fucking benefits? You know what the average wealth of African Americans in the United States? Minus 8,000. Wait, no way, really? Libstini, dude, coming in hot, saying the job market is looking real great for Brandon. And running unemployment numbers, dude. Great. The tertiary education includes vocational schools, so males still underperform, including trade schools. There's 0% chance that they had that for Germany. They had that included in Germany, I don't think.
In employment areas which are seen as lower status than they were in the past. And we've also seen a drop in the acquisition of skills, the kinds of skills and education that boys and men need. If boys don't get educated and men don't get skilled, they will struggle in the labor market. And across all of those domains, we've seen a downwards turn for men in the last 4 or 5 decades. And so the way in which social class divides have opened up, economic inequality has widened, is really important to understand.
There is no way my homie is making the argument that women are doing better economically than men are, right? There's no way, right? If anything, you can look at this data and go, women are overqualified for positions and men still out-earn them. Women are not only overqualified and have better education, better educational outcomes, and they are filling up sectors like teaching, like nursing, like caretaking, like social work. Those are literally severely underfunded sectors where you can get away with underpaying your workforce. In the United States of America especially, there is no, like, if you're looking at white collar jobs and not the jobs that I just mentioned, if you're looking at white collar jobs, men are still outperforming women as far as, well, not outperforming, but men are still getting better pay than women do. If you are looking at these other sectors that we're talking about, where women are dominant, those sectors, they're getting paid way less. He's saying that women are taking these cozy middle management jobs, but that's not even true. Doesn't the low unemployment rate mean labor has a lot of power so they can bargain for better workplace benefits? Yes, that is how it's supposed to work in an econ textbook, and yet that has never happened in a tight labor market for some weird reason in the United States of America. That's what the books say. Well, for some reason, it just doesn't happen. Weird. Anyway, that's besides the point. Like, nursing is a good example of this, but if you talk about nursing, for example, let's talk about nursing. nursing is not only underpaid, but also more and more hospitals try to use traveling nurses as a way to continue depressing wages for the existing full-time nursing staff, right? And every hospital in this country has an issue with staffing at the moment. So it's not like hospitals couldn't hire more people. It's not like people don't demand, like literally nurses are striking in New York City right now. Nurses are striking at the NHS in the UK for the exact same reason. They're overworked, they're underpaid, it's bad conditions for the patients, okay? And yes, registry nurses or travel nurses cost companies 3x the amount of a full-time nurse they literally would hire if they could. No, the reason why they use travel nurses, the reason why they try to apply travel nurses is because it's better for the short term in the eyes of the hospital administrators to just say, all right, we're just gonna patch up the gap with travel nurses, and you're gonna get back to your low paying job until this, like, you know, until we move beyond the workplace, the potential work stoppage. Yeah, they save money on benefits potentially. And also if you are if you have a workplace full of workers that have been on the job for a very long time, the likelihood of organizing, or, you know, if you're already in a union, the likelihood that you will demand better benefits and less hours and demand the administrators to hire more nurses to make up for that gap is infinitely more likely. It's what Amazon does as a part of its fucking hiring practices. They try to force turnover as best as they can so that there is never any threat of unionization in any of their facilities, which, of course, if you're as big as Amazon, turns into a problem because it's not sustainable, because you're everywhere. You have to be everywhere. And also, it's the same fucking company that has to be everywhere. It's the same distribution facilities that have to be everywhere. You're eventually going to run out of people that you churn through. As a nurse, being in a female-dominated profession is far more soul-crushing than I realized it would be. My mind and body are run dry, and they guilt you by saying it's your duty. Nursing has always been a servant profession, and people are finally fucking done.
And in the context of gender inequality, if we only focus on gender gaps, then we miss the fact that both men and women at the top have done increasingly well, but that's much less true of everybody else, and especially it's less true of those from lower income backgrounds, working class boys and men, and black boys and men. You see many of those trends are amplified, and so those boys and men are really at the sharpest end of.
I think this is kind of fucking scary and a little gross to look at how much the working class gets shafted in this country in this day and age, and then divided along the lines of gender to make it seem like it's a zero-sum game, even if you say, oh, well, it's not a zero-sum game, but here's why women participating in the workforce has led to, and women participating in education has led to men not being able to outperform women, is fucking crazy, in my opinion. Because ultimately, working class women are getting shafted in the exact same way that working class men are getting shafted. And also, when we talk about like who controls society, we talk about who is holding on to the levers of power all the way from government to like corporate executive boards. Those are still insanely just full to the brim with men. That disparity still very much exists in top level positions. Men still are overwhelmingly more represented than women, white men in particular.
of many of the social and economic changes. On the one hand, we have a huge and successful and laudable effort to get more women into STEM jobs, so science, technology, engineering, and math. On the other side, we have what I call HEAL jobs. So that's health, education, administration, and literacy. Almost, if you like, the opposite side of the...
Yeah, except, again, literally, wait, first of all, administration. Administration? The fuck? What does he mean? Like, administrative duties are still... There's still a shitload. What administration has like a female? Is he talking about like secretary and shit? Oh, okay. Okay, I thought he meant like fucking like people in positions of power, like management.
The coin to STEM jobs. And that's where a lot of the jobs are coming from. Health and education alone are huge and growing sectors in the US. And so by my estimates, for every one job we're going to create in STEM between now and 2030, we're going to create 3 in HEAL jobs. But those jobs are at least as gender segregated as STEM jobs, but in the other direction. And unlike STEM, becoming more so over time. So if you look at the HEAL sector, only 24% of the workers...
Bro, this is like kind of scary. He's saying like, it's not about improving. I mean, unless the end of this argument is literally make better paying positions in this field, I don't know where he's going. I don't understand what argument he's trying to make here. Like, what is his solution? He had a solution at the very least to like the education gap, right?
Because in those sectors are male, and that number is falling. And in particular sectors, we're seeing a really precipitous drop in the number of men. We have a drop in the number of male teachers. We have a very sharp drop in the number of male psychologists. That's dropped from 39% male to 29% male in the last decade alone. And among psychologists under the age of 30, only 5% are male. So we roll that forward, and we're going to see psychology becoming essentially almost an all-female profession. So these jobs, which are both crucial, I think, for society, and where it'd be very useful to have more diversity, are actually becoming more gender.
I mean, you can make this... I don't get it. Do you actually think there's an issue with the young males, or are men just scared of women becoming more accepted in society? No, I do think that there's an issue with the next generation in general, or with every generation. I think there's an issue, but the structural issue is not a gender breakdown. I don't think like men are... I don't think it's because like they are not being incentivized to go into these fields. I don't think it's not that these men are not being like, you know, pushed towards these fields. I think it's more so that men are just choosing not to do work in this field. One, maybe because they think it's like women dominated, I guess, if there is one reason. Or two, the more important factor, which is they just get paid more. Men who have the educational qualities end up going into other fields because those fields pay more. They just pay more. Like, and there isn't like a counter argument to be like, we need more fucking oil drillers that are women. You know what I mean? And that's a fucking well-paid sector. That's heavily male dominated. You know what I mean? No one ever turns around and goes, well, men have like physical qualities, or women could potentially do the same exact fucking jobs. It's just they pay more. Why the fuck would you do this other shit? No one is paying for you to be a teacher. And year over year, cost of living is going up, and your pay is not fucking going up alongside it. If anything, a lot of the sectors that are growing, like he mentioned in HEAL, okay, a lot of the sector that he's mentioning, which by the way, it's kind of odd that he brings up, was H the health part of HEAL? Because like health is like nursing, caretakers certainly, and also I guess psychologists, but you just mentioned literally the three lowest paid aspects of health. And doctors, on the other hand, are still more male dominated. There you go. Like, and that's the best paying part of health. The other parts that are cheaper are still female dominated. Yeah, a doctor considered a male field usually earns 4 times as much as a nurse, which is considered a female field. The 1 to 4 salary ratio. Dude, this is what I'm saying, Hasan. Even if men were paid $100K a year to be preschool teachers, we would need more social progress for it to make a big impact. Bro, if you were paying $100K a year to be a fucking preschool teacher, more men would absolutely try to become preschool teachers. You are delusional. There is one motivator. Everybody understands that money makes the world go round. But for some reason, whenever we talk about like how do we fucking fill these sectors with, more men, no one ever thinks money. But it's weird because like you understand it. That's the reason why people hold on to fucking oil fracking as an institution that needs to be defended. Why? Because it's one that pays well. That's it. It's heavily subsidized by the government. And ultimately, it pays well in comparison to other jobs in that fucking neighborhood. That's it. If building solar panels paid as much as oil rigs did, okay, as much as like oil fracking did, motherfuckers would be holding on to those solar panels too. They'd be going crazy over it. They'd be like, dude, fuck you. Renewable energy is the way. Nobody is born to nobody's born to work on an oil rig. Okay, nobody has like a fucking oil rig brain. It's the same process. There are more female doctors than male doctors now. I highly doubt that that's the case if you take out psychiatry from that, which is literally the lowest paying doctor. Even when it comes to it's pediatricians. Even when it comes down to that is simply incorrect. Even when it comes down to like doctors and who gets paid more, if you look at the gender. Oh, he means med school. Oh, okay. Women are mostly pediatricians. Well, also, there are more men as a percentage in psychiatry than average. Wait, didn't he just say psychiatry is? I thought he just said that there are more women and there are less men now. There's 5% males, or am I wrong? Oh, psychologists.
Drop in the number of men. We have a drop in the number of male teachers. We have a very sharp drop in the number of male psychologists. That's dropped from 39% male to 29% male in the last decade alone. And among psychologists under the age of 30, only 5% are male. So we roll.
Women get paid $30K less on average. There are over 55,000 doctors currently employed in the United States. 54% of all doctors are women, while 45.8% are men. The average age of an employed doctor is 48 years old. The common ethnicity of doctors is 65% white, followed by Asian 18%, Hispanic or Latino 8%, Black or African American 4.7%. In 2021, women earned 84% of what men earned. Bro, that's crazy. Okay, I want to see specialty. That's what I want to see. Women earn 84 cents for every $1 earned by men. %, male surgeons to 18% women surgeons. They get paid the big bucks. Well, anesthesiologist is another. That's the highest paid, I think. Isn't it? It's the highest paid doctor. Let me educate you. Psychology and psychiatry are not the same at all. Please let me educate you. This is simply incorrect. Let me educate you on this issue, please. Oh, God. I can't wait. Please go ahead, Hatester. You have the podium. Let's hear what you have to say in the chat. Nope. Ophthalmologists, some types of surgeons. I think a big part of this is, too, that men and boys are more socialized with the ideas that you have to make more money or else you're not a successful man. family general practice is almost all of these are. Wait, you're gonna make me pay for this? Okay, almost all of these are male dominated, except for pediatrics, which is female dominated, and also OBGYN. But even then, it's like not that big of a disparity. The proportion of female doctors has increased in all OECD countries over the past decade, over the past 2 decades. Holy fuck. What the fuck? Latvia and Estonia? 74%? Oh, I know why. Every part of the Eastern Bloc, due to unironic initiatives from the USSR, have always had placed a high value or a high emphasis on eliminating the gender disparity. So I guess like in the aftermath of that, they just continued and went crazy. And it also, Estonia is like 50% women. What do you mean? That's you're describing. It was literally 0% before. No, that's not true. You're wrong about that. What? No, the USSR. Look, the USSR are a lot of fucking issues, but when it comes to gender disparity, in fucking fields, the USSR absolutely lapped the United States at a time when both were existing. They definitely made do with way less resources that they had. Yeah, I guess all the cam girls fucking weren't lying when they said they need to pay for med school. In Japan, the share of female doctors was zero, was nothing. Korea and Japan, there were like no women doctors, okay? And now, okay, we'll let you have 22%. That was incredibly sexist of you. Okay, shut the fuck up. They were like, all right, we'll let you have some. Women military service, even on the front lines, has been a long-running tradition in USSR countries that has an emphasis on reducing the gender gap, has extended to all professions. Yeah, motherfuckers celebrate like International Women's Day without realizing the background of, you know, the day and how it started. Japan is so sexist, the men there don't even want to fuck the women. No, it's because Japan is more evolved as a society where they've already moved on from 3D women to 2D women, motherfucker. That's what it is. Fellas, we have International Working Women's Day. Yeah. Fellas, we've moved on. We got Hatsune Miku pizza, okay? And we got Hatsune Miku girlfriend. Hatsune Miku wife. Yeah, Estonian women outnumber Estonian men. Yeah. I can't help but feel like this is a bit of a skill issue. You know what I mean? Like I know glancing over all this and saying like skill issue L for men is like silly. Psychology is not a medical specialty, therefore there are not physicians. Psychiatry is a medical specialty. The highest paid specialties in medicine are surgical subspecialties that require longer years of training. However, the most underpaid are primary care physicians. Like it does feel like it's it does feel like it's a skill issue though a little bit. The freshman class of my university's med school is 70% women. Got to look up residency and med school stats and not current docs. I feel like it's gonna. I feel like we've decided a good way to squeeze out more profit is by underpaying the workforce. Obviously, something that everybody knew, and instead of hiring immigrant labor, or instead of going overseas, because you kind of can't do that for doctors in general. They've decided to innovate and go with women, which you can underpay on average 84 cents to the dollar, it seems. So they're like, a good way to increase profits is by just making sure that, you know, the workforce is dominated by women, and then we can just underpay them. Women, the local immigrants. Yeah, women. When you have immigrants next door in your own home, as a matter of fact. This video made me rage so much on Nick's chat that Twitch banned me. Women, like men, but cheaper. We killed the balloon? No! Stop. Really? No. No, we killed the balloon. What the fuck? Is it over? This could be... Is this fake? Okay, so here's what I caught a few minutes ago out of my window. I saw jet go by so fast and then explosion inside. Holy crap, Billings MT. Not real, by the way, confirmed by the Pentagon. Breaking, U.S. confirms second Chinese balloon floating in the sky. What the fuck? Oh no! Pentagon says another Chinese spy balloon is traveling over Latin America. What are they doing? What are these balloons doing, man? Defense officials tell Jen Griffin that the balloon over MT has not exploded and that was not shot down by the U.S. military. Videos purporting to show the balloon exploding are not real. So what did they do? Did they shoot one another? Oh no, that'd be so funny. If they accidentally... What's the story with these balloons? What's going on? Dude, I can't, okay? Conservatives are losing their minds so much now that the balloon is the real reason for the Second Amendment. No, it didn't hit Montana. It hit somewhere else. It hit Latin America, apparently. Imagine this is some Chinese university student science project gone wrong. It was supposed to measure wind currents. I mean, that'd be pretty funny. Proud, unrepentant, ultra MAGA Gina Bella says, darn. How does this lady have 10,000 followers, dude? Someone posted you and Austin on r/contagious laughter. Wait, why is this talk about? Okay, this is one upvote. You posted it. Okay, well, dude, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this. The gender
Roll that
thing.
forward, and we're going to see psychology becoming essentially almost an all-female profession. So these jobs, which are both crucial, I think, for society and where it'd be very useful to have more diversity, are actually becoming more gender segregated. And so we have absolutely no effort to get more men into heel jobs, which is where I think the future lies and where we should be helping men to move. One of the problems that we face is what I call in the book a dad deficit. And that can be seen in various different ways. So 1 in 4 fathers don't live with their children. If parents split up, they're much more likely to lose contact with their fathers and with their mothers.
Oh my God. It's because there's a real problem. There's a crisis of fatherlessness because of divorce court. There it is, dude. I fucking had no idea. It's divorced dads that don't have access to their children no longer as a consequence of fucking divorce court. A lot of black people are in nursing. Does that mean we need to better train white people to be nurses to reduce the racial gap? Yeah, they don't. Yeah. Notice how no one is making that argument. I wonder why. Just like no one is making the argument that we need to train women to work at the fucking oil rigs either. Not that like there is a preset quality to either profession or that either profession has similar limitations.
Others, and so 1 in 3 children, if their parents split up, don't see their father at all after a few years post the separation. So this fatherlessness is something that's very, very specific. And when 4 in 10 children are born outside marriage, and most children to less educated parents are born outside marriage, then we have to...
Wait, what the fuck is his argument to do this then? Is his argument that like you have to force women into staying in their fucking shit marriages with like possibly abusive or piece of shit the fathers? Like what the fuck? Not saying that like every single instance of divorce is the fault of the man, but like, you know, there's
to reinvent what it means to be a father. Because right now, men are still being held to an old standard of what it meant to be a successful father in a world where that is neither possible for many of them or even desirable, because what we've seen is as women have grown in economic power and economic independence, then of course they're going to choose to be with a man rather than being forced to, as in the old days. This is probably the greatest liberation in human history, honestly, that women can now choose whether to be with a man or not. More than 2 out of 5 households in the US now.
Bro, this literally makes the same argument that Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and like every fucking conservative does, but like liberal, in a liberal way. Yeah, women have the capacity to choose, to no longer be stuck in partnerships. They also have like financial freedom because they are now able to participate in the workforce. And this is leading to men literally getting shafted, is what he is saying, which is crazy.
A woman is the main breadwinner. 40% of American women earn more than the average man. These are huge economic changes and all for the good, but it does pose some really sharp questions about what fathers are for. And until we escape the obsolete model of the breadwinner father, then we will continue to see more and more men being left out of family life. And the kicker is that boys...
Bro, it's like women are using us for our semen. Okay, men, we need to hold on to our semen. Okay, fellas, I'm telling you. Women are using us as like breeding stallions, okay? They're letting us come inside of them, and then they're making children with us, and then they're divorcing our asses, and they're basically excommunicating us from the family. And they can do that now because they have freedom. They have financial freedom, okay? And then once you're like fucking, you know, once your semen has been taken from you and turned into a child, okay, they have no use for you no longer, so they kick you out. Okay, what's the solution?
And until we escape the obsolete model of the breadwinner father, then we will continue to see more and more men being left out of family life. And the kicker is that boys in families that don't have a father presence suffer much more than girls. And so then what happens is that male disadvantage can become intergenerational, because if the fathers are struggling and therefore not really involved in their kids' lives, then
Bro, he said women earn 40% more than men, so still 60% still. He said 40% of women earn more than men, so still 60% of women earn less than men. Yeah, but that's a problem. He said 40% of women earn more than 50% of men. Well, I don't even understand what he's saying there. I don't get that. He said 40% earn more than the average person, than the average man. Doesn't that mean 60% of women don't earn more than the average man? What? So what, how is that, even with that disparity, he's still saying women are fucking lapping? Like, I don't get it. I actually don't understand it. Hold on.
the boys are the ones who suffer most, who will then go on to struggle themselves in education and the labour market. It's clear by now that marriage and social institutions and a sense of purpose matter to men. And so as we've seen these real challenges faced by men in education, work, and family, you're seeing some really difficult and troubling health consequences. And so the so-called deaths of
The only thing he didn't mention here, which conservatives love to mention when faced with like the gender pay gap and like answers for why the gender pay gap exists, because women do earn less than men on average, is that like, well, women get pregnant and leave the workforce, and that's why like they're unreliable. Like that's usually the only fucking the only conservative counter to that. And other than that, like this is just the regular conservative video just with like liberal terminology. This is why the JP Tate arguments take hold, because there is a problem and they offer bullshit solutions for the problem. Approaching the problem and trying to find a solution that isn't about increasing sexism is necessary if we want to address the JP/Tate's stranglehold on disaffected men. You've acknowledged this before. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a problem with social alienation and alienation from your labor. I think the way I think about it is if you're gonna think like white collar jobs are more feminine, which they're not, but like they're not. I'll just say it like this. If you think about blue collar jobs have a higher likelihood of being dominated by men. Okay, manufacturing and the like, especially physical jobs, right? That doesn't mean that women can't do it, but oftentimes men are the ones that have heavily dominated the field throughout history. And in general, still to this day, men are the ones who dominate the blue collar sector. When you eliminate the manufacturing force in the United States of America, and all of the jobs are basically either white collar jobs or service sector jobs that are like severely underpaying, okay? And then women have more qualifications, so they start fielding the more feminized sectors, even though they're not really feminine. Nursing is a very physical job too. Yes, but what I'm talking about is not nursing or anything like that. And it is a gruesome profession. Don't misunderstand me. I'm talking like auto mechanic and shit. You know what I mean? Or the guy who works on construction jobs, like blue collar jobs, as in like more manly, heavy labor. Okay, manual labor jobs. Those jobs are becoming increasingly rare. So when those jobs become increasingly rare, and the only jobs that are available are either, are they? Yes, they are becoming more. What is making them rare? What do you mean? Manufacturing being shipped overseas is what makes most of this shit rare. Obviously, it still scales as the economy grows. It still scales as our population grows. But technology, automation, and manufacturing makes the instance of these jobs way more rare, and the likelihood of your bosses basically getting more efficiency out of a singular individual rather than a larger labor force, it makes it higher. Like coal mining is a great example. People constantly point to coal mining, heavily male-dominated sector. 55,000 coal miners in this country. That number is tiny, okay? Why? Is it because we have a lot of renewable energy initiatives? Or is it because of automation? And the answer is automation. It's not just energy initiatives that have eviscerated coal mining as a sector in this country. It's literally automation. Our shop is gutted to shit. They just raised the price they charge for our labor to manage the demand. Still no raises. Yeah. So with automation and with other forms of manufacturing moving overseas, what you're basically seeing is the male-dominated sectors that used to pay decent wages, that used to exist to like allow men to build a family and whatnot, get eviscerated, and the other fields, the white-collar fields that have more equality in like or are can be done by both men and women, and oftentimes tend to field more women and men. Those fields are seeing more women enter that workplace because they have higher degrees and they're more qualified overall. There are obviously certain areas where men are still more dominant, even in the white collar sector, specifically like in the STEM field and tech. But I think that is the main reason for why men seemingly have less opportunity or feel like they have less opportunity. So yeah, it does go back to the degree gap. But ultimately, the jobs that we're looking at in the white collar side are also dog shit, and the pay is also dog shit. It's just that the other industries have either no pay or no jobs in general. Jobs like teaching and nursing demand high skill and education but offer much lower pay. That's why they call it pink collar. All the requirements of white collar but more demanding and shit pay, aka pink collar jobs. I had never heard of this term before. But it does make sense. I mean, one solution to this problem is making the government create a civil engineer corps once again and create a hiring program for consistent long-term labor projects, specifically in rebuilding our infrastructure. Build homes, build infrastructure, socialize a whole bunch of these industries, and you will have men take up more dominant roles in society again. Even through automation, this is achievable. But the unfortunate reality is that there is no financial imperative for our current government to do any of that because they don't give a shit. If our government actually worked at the behest of citizens rather than worked at the behest of corporations, this is what the government would do. If anything, this is what the government is supposed to do. What? You pretend all men need to be as more qualified? You literally didn't hear anything I said. While ignoring that men do simply not get the support that women do from an early age. You did not hear anything I said. You literally did not hear anything, which is fine because you are ultimately working with liberal brain. You're working with liberal brain. You got liberal brain rot. So you have to reduce everything back away from structural solutions to individuals. You think individuals are not being propped up. And you think that is the reason. Women weren't simply bullied into not entering the workforce. You understand that? When we talk about the patriarchy, when we talk about patriarchal constructs, we're not just saying women were simply not, women were simply allowed to work but chose not to because everyone was not giving them enough support. That's not how that worked. They just straight up were like, fuck no, fuck off. You're not getting hired. No women. Don't be crazy. It was unimaginable for women to participate in even education after a certain point, and certainly not in the job sector, in the marketplace. Now that they are allowed, they're dominating. And even then, they're still getting underpaid. In the United States, for example, the non-adjusted average woman's annual salary is 79% the average man's salary compared to 95% of the adjusted salary. Yeah. What he doesn't understand is that the patriarchal structure of society and gender expectations in the face of economic despair that causes men to implode mentally and socially, and not that women are catching up in education. The argument should not be to nerf women. The argument should be to create job opportunities in other fields where men used to be dominant, and you can do that, or men used to work towards. Problem is we don't have a lot of that because automation and the interest of increasing profit margins year over year have caused all of those jobs to be eviscerated in this country. and in many Western nations, as a matter of fact. This guy isn't arguing to nerf women. He's arguing to be more patient with men. No, I think he's not arguing to nerf women. He's just saying we should like get men to become nurses, which I think is also silly because like there's like they have every capacity. Men have every opportunity to become nurses right now. They could if they wanted to. You know what I mean? Like they just straight up could. And there are plenty of men who are nurses. I'm just saying that like there's a reason why men are not going towards nursing jobs and educational jobs and things like that. I don't think that it's because they're just not thinking about that as an avenue or thinking about that as like a career prospect. What would be the benefit of having more male nurses? Make no sense. I mean, there are benefits to having more male nurses. First of all, there would be more nurses in general, which is ultimately a good thing because there is need for more nurses. It's not like we have an abundance of nurses. If anything, we need more fucking nurses. That's literally what they're striking for. They want more full-time nursing staff.
Despair from suicide, overdose, or alcohol 3 times higher among men than among women. Suicide itself 3 times higher among men and women, and rising very quickly, especially among middle-aged men and younger men. So we can see these as symptoms, I think, of a broader malaise, which is what's troubling boys and men. And for men in particular, this sense of purpose is very important. I think it's a human universal that we need to be needed. There's a wonderful piece of work by an academic called Fiona Shand who looked at the last words that men had used to describe themselves before committing suicide or attempting suicide. And the top of the list were worthless and useless. I think if we create a society in which so many men do feel like they're...
He's not saying women hate a sense of purpose. He's just saying that like men need to be needed and men don't feel needed right now, which again, I think just like... it just mystifies class dynamics for no fucking reason. Well, for actually a very clear reason, and that is because he's a neoliberal, and therefore your entire purpose is to mystify class dynamics, because that's the purpose of neoliberal agitated propaganda. It's just heterosexual and sexist POV. Wait, what? Not you, the video. I don't think this is a men versus women issue overall. I think this is men and women across the board getting shafted, and men also seeing some of the additional shafting because of the jobs that used to be dominated mostly by men. I'm not talking about white collar jobs, because white collar jobs, everyone is doing them, okay? There is no like manual labor or physical component associated with white collar jobs that operate as like a natural boundary for a lot of women from participating in it. That's why always these motherfuckers, like conservatives, will always talk about like, what about a woman working here? Even though there's plenty of physicality involved in working at a fucking Amazon distribution facility, and plenty of women work there. There's plenty of physical aspects involved in nursing, and obviously that's a female-dominated industry. I'm talking about manual labor as far as like construction and other places. Women can also obviously work in these places, but it's still probably, no matter what happens, going to be more male-dominated. But those sectors are oftentimes those sectors that used to make up a gigantic percentage of the workforce, the labor force, have now been withered away as a consequence of automation and manufacturing moving overseas. The problem is we blame men rather than capitalism. I don't know what you mean by we blame men. Is this a record for your longest React video length ratio? Probably not. Men losing that sense of purpose is actually in line with Marxist feminist analyses on how neoliberalism changed gender dynamics away from the Fordistic breadwinner model. I don't think my brain is. I don't think I have enough processing power to get through this. I've spent way too much time on this fucking one video. I've spent 4 hours on a Jubilee video before, though. So it's not that bad.
They're not needed. Then it's no surprise that we see these deaths of despair. We see problems with opioids. Opioids are a much bigger problem for men than they are for women. And one of the great tragedies of opioid deaths is the death rates are higher in part because the users are on their own. And so in some ways, the opioid epidemic is a perfect illustration of a whole series of things we're talking about, which is a loss of role in the family, a loss of status in the labor market, turning to drugs, and being isolated and withdrawn. And so in that example, I think you can see a symptom of this broader male malaise that we just need to take it more seriously. And we have a cultural responsibility as a society, men and women together, to help men and boys to adjust to this new world. Because right now, many of them are really struggling.
Get smarter, faster with videos from the world's...
I don't know. I mean, he seems well, but like, there's... He seems well-intentioned, I'll say, but I feel like he's spent a big chunk of the video just basically talking about women entering the workforce as just absolutely destroyed men. Like, absolutely destroyed men without, like, you know, without basically offering any material solutions to this problem. Which will leave a lot of people thinking, yeah, that's why women should get the fuck out of the workplace and just like have men do it again. Because that's when things were good, because men would have purpose, or else we'll just keep committing suicide. Fuck you. Which is it's just an odd fucking take. I think you're being really uncharitable here. The more I listen, the more I'm hearing that he wants to change what it means to be a man in society, which we do need to do. It isn't about women getting better is bad, but changing men to fit in the new world. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, he does what every fucking liberal does, which is, it would be nice if there were more men in education. It would be nice if there were more men in nursing. It would be nice if there were more men in these growing sectors, in heal, right? But he doesn't actually say how we get there. He just says, if there are more men, then more men will want to go towards that field. And you can't influence your way into, changing that dynamic, especially when there are no structural hurdles that are stopping men from becoming nurses right now. There are no structural limitations that are stopping men from becoming teachers right now. The only structural limitation is that they just don't get paid enough. That's it. These are not high-paying sectors, okay? So men who have qualifications, on the one hand, you have men with degrees, men who have qualifications. They still go into the workforce. They still dominate in white-collar jobs, okay? They get paid more than women. They dominate in that field. On the other side, though, there is a education gap. That much is real, okay? There is an education gap. That much is real. But men who are going into like these other fields are going into, you know, they're competing for the highest paid professions in the highest paid fields. It's not like men who are it's not like there's something stopping men from becoming nurses other than the fact that nurses don't pay as much. And even in areas where men in female dominated sectors, when men work in those sectors, they still get paid more than women. That much is also true. So men are getting paid more than women in every aspect, across the board, in every field, even in fields where they're underrepresented, or even in fields that they're overrepresented. Okay? You really think it's because of pay and not because those are girly jobs? Yes, I do think it's because of pay. If men have the expectation to be breadwinners, they want to make money in jobs that pay better. And I think that is part of the reason why they don't go into those sectors. They go for other jobs. Now, there's the other side of this where there are a lot of men who are just jobless. There are a lot of men who are falling into this pit of despair. Those men do not have the same background. They don't come from the same they don't come from the same generational wealth. Those men are the men that usually in the past would go to manufacturing, blue collar, construction, more manual labor focused jobs. But those jobs, unfortunately, due to automation and due to manufacturing moving overseas and our endless interest in profit seeking, have withered away in availability. So basically what ends up happening is wants to shift culture or influence men to go to these other sectors that they are just not going into, like education, because they're growth sectors. Okay? And he wants to do it by motivating them somehow. Doesn't say how, but he just says motivating them somehow. But I'm telling you, there is no bigger motivator than money. Okay? There is no bigger motivator than money. If these jobs paid better, more men would want to get those jobs. More men would seek out those jobs. More people in general would seek out those jobs. Okay? That's it. Equality will only be achieved if you hyper-focus on areas of need and use the government to pick up the slack or just fill the gaps. You know what I mean? Equality, on the other hand, at the top of the hour is achieved for everyone, unless you are subscribed for $5 or for free.